anticipate everyone will be fine, but I know myself, I ended up having to take an extra day. So that's the one thing we wanted to make sure we got your attention out of the
I don't need it in the motion, or?
Just a consensus.
Now, one question I have, is this in addition to what was already given? So if people were impacted initially and get impacted again?
What we're saying is, we're giving consensus that the EPSL will be allowed to be used for reaction to vaccine in addition to the original COVID cases in quarantine. And everybody was only allowed 80 hours from the very beginning. If you used the 80 hours and it happened again, that was on your own sick leave. So it's just that we're extending EPSL to cover vaccine reaction.
Sure. And do you know what percentage of the employees has had at least one shot?
The answer, I don't know, is the vast majority, I think, is of the office staff.
The office staff
is
almost everybody,
almost everybody.
but in other departments it varies greatly.
The reason I'm asking is the ones that haven't had a shot yet, they wait a month and then they do take a shot. We need to make sure this extends to them as well.
Sure. That's an excellent point. Yes, thank you.
But everyone has had the opportunity.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think more and more people, as more of the friends and family people you know get it, and throw a third alarm or feel over it, eventually everyone will slow down.
They're all girls together.
I just thought maybe if I did throw a third alarm, I could find fast together.
You know, put more stuff on the loader.
There you go.
Oh, I agree. I think, and I think it's evident in what we've seen, those of us that's worked out at with the pharmacy.
It's just amazing.
I saw a lot of people come through there that I know and said, no, I'm not taking that. But as like you said, as family members or friends have taken it and they've seen, you know, then they're kind of swinging back over. So.
And I do know that there's many veterans in our community, and a lot of them have gotten it at the VA. That's what I was told. But from what I heard from Kevin and you, Cindy, I mean, we've got a third of our population in Floyd, 5,000.
Have gotten at least one shot, of course, many of them is.
Well, if 5,000, that would be more than a third of the eligible.
Well, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was before we had the last two clinics, and I'm thinking it might be closer to 6,000.
Yeah.
We've only got about
12.
15,000 and 2,000 of those are children, so about 13,000.
And a lot of our citizens that goes to Florida during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got some friends down there, they got their shots.
Good.
Well, I noticed the governor's conference yesterday. One of the questions to the governor was about localities that have a more proportion of the older generation and trying to distribute based on that. And of course, he handed it off to the Secretary of Health. You know, I think in the foreseeable future, you're going to see localities with the higher age impacted getting more vaccine than some of the others. But for right now, they're still going on the overall population ratio. And I understand wanting to get as many vaccinated as possible, but I still think that we need to be highly concerned about those that are more apt to be impacted adversely, and that is the 65 and older population.
Well, most of them should be eligible at this point.
Yeah.
Well, they are, but when again, that's a lot of the population that's afraid to take it. So how we reach out to them, you know.
But Jerry, I agree with you in terms of there were so many people that I saw that Saturday that, man, I thought for sure we were not taking the vaccine. and have started taking vaccines. So I think,
It's turning.
yeah, it's turning, and so many were complimentary of just having it here. That was what I heard at the door when I took their temperature, and then when they left me, they just were so thankful that they didn't have to go very far.
At some point in time, we gotta do a proclamation recognizing Portia.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And laws for
And the
towns
laws,
to use
yes.
their facility.
Yes.
Yep, Floyd Village, yeah. Yep,
Yeah, there was a lot that came through that probably wouldn't have gotten it if they hadn't
Absolutely.
gone back for a Christiansburg or wherever.
I think so.
Did I read correctly somewhere the potential of going to the next stage fairly soon, I think?
Like next week?
April 1st,
Something like
something
that.
like
Yeah.
that.
Making progress.
Yeah,
Yes, I think this, in fact, later this week, they were starting to move to like restaurant workers and,
And we've already gotten quite a few of those here in Floyd. We saw those come through this past Sunday.
yeah,
yeah.
there you go.
Wasn't it, I'm trying to recall, by the end of May, having it available to everybody or something like that, definitely by the end of May.
Oh, definitely, but I think it's gonna even be sooner at this rate.
I can say now, of course, this is the next state over, but my 20-year-old college student is getting hers tomorrow, her first one tomorrow.
Yeah, my 26-year-old is getting hers on Saturday, on Friday, so.
We're moving to your question.
In North Carolina as well, yes.
Moving in that direction.
Mhm.
That's the key, is just anyone wants it to be able to get it done. I'm being a position trying to push somebody into getting it, but there's plenty of people out there that
That
want
want it. Yep. And older folks that don't, I mean, you know, their doctors have given them their instructions, some have said not to, some have said to, so.
Well, that's the key. I see all the time on social media, people asking, should I or shouldn't I? And talk to your family
Yeah.
physician.
Facebook is the worst place to have
Well, that's what, I mean,
Yeah, really.
I try not to go there, and usually if I comment, they ask you family doctor.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's the one you need to be talking to.
Yeah, my brother's still trying to figure out through his neurologist what to get.
Well, yeah, there are people that,
Given
there's
his
a lot,
situation,
there's
yeah.
a lot of people with a lot of complicated situations, and it's hard for them to decide.
Yep.
And did I understand, I've heard that they would go to a person's home if they were unable to, have you heard that?
Portia has been doing that.
She's already been doing it. There you go.
All down, elder, and
Above and beyond.
elder, yeah, just amazing.
And they also provide curbside service to those who can at least drive to the clinic.
Right.
Yeah, we had a bunch of those.
I stopped by and chatted with her the other day. And I would encourage you whenever you see her to personally thank her, because
Absolutely.
most people, you all understand because you're so close, but most people don't understand, I don't think, how much effort this is, and it's on top of running this business and everything else, right? It's kind of like you all doing this and still farming, so I think she would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Do y'all have any good news for us this morning?
So would I win the lottery and give the county a bunch of money?
No, that didn't happen overnight.
I thought maybe since y'all had such a long break between meetings, y'all could-
Definitely need to come up with
Well, I will tell you, it's not good news, but we did move forward, as I sent a note, and they answered already this morning to text Twitter, that we wanted to talk to them a little bit about their proposal and where we are and all of that, so we're scheduling that. And then the other thing I'll just mention, in the list of really quick things, is when I sat down with Lisa Baker the other day, and you all might know this already, but since you might hear from constituents about it, that the NADA vehicle values for 2021 have been moving up, particularly for trucks and SUVs.
Oh, boy.
So, thought I'd give you fair warning. And as you know, those are based on NADA values. And, so it's not something that's generated locally or anything like that, but just, so, you know, they've been going up primarily, I guess, because, of course, interest rates are near zero and production of certain auto manufacturing plants have closed down, et cetera, et cetera. But it's almost entirely in trucks and SUVs. So those of us that still drive sedans are not as big.
See what the price on it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
my value's too good on mine. It's like, what county had.
Yeah, right.
My truck goes up 10%, it'd probably be like $100.
We have so many older cars that it really isn't too impactful.
The newest thing I had is 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's,
Luxury,
My wife rolls her eyes at times at my truck.
At least you're farming pretty well.
That'd take care of everything there, once you get off the farm.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, according to my notes, we never got the 4 items on the list from the budget workshop yesterday. If you feel like
Do we have
Kathleen
I think
does.
she's trying to get us to go to work.
I think she is.
Well, I'll make one.
One of the items I need clarification on, you said you would like to use some of that delinquent court funds. And you said specifically at that point in time, it was just to cover the cost of putting the two 50/50 grants back in. What about the other things we're putting back in? Do you want to see how much all those total and possibly use the delinquent court funds to bring it up at least to the 521,000 we had before adding, or 525 we had before adding things back in?
All the rest of them are reoccurring costs, right?
Yes,
So we'd be paying using one-time money to pay
Right.
reoccurring costs.
so you would prefer not,
Whoever said here next year, you'd have to pick it up.
so don't use it?
No.
Okay.
If there's other one-time costs in the budget,
Yeah.
that'd be all about.
So if we put anything back in that was, one time, I mean, like the, Larrington or something, so,
In other words, don't use it on any reoccurring expense.
delinquent, not using.
That's always my fault.
I mean, my quick addition said the things that we added back in totaled 87,185.
Okay, but 41,000 of it for those grants.
Correct.
Okay. But so you only want to use it for the grants or any other things that are one-time?
Library parking lot might be an extra one.
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't,
I mean,
I agree. That'd be at one time.
yep,
How much are those grants, what did those two grants total? We had,
I just off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's 41 or 42,000.
so that leaves 60.
No,
That's,
I mean, that is, yeah, they come to 42,000, so.
I'm using round numbers. Best I can remember, wasn't it between 50 and 60,000 estimate?
50, I think it was, yeah.
Better
By
ask
now
them
it's
about
probably 60.
Well, yeah, now, but
How many loads of gravel could we do?
all gravel. Well, you gotta chip, you gotta pay for chipping up asphalt first time. Well, shouldn't be a problem.
That's funny.
Matic and 3 or 4 people from New River
That's funny.
could probably do it in orange jumpsuits in a day.
Maybe petroleum prices went up, though, that, that's gonna go way up.
Yeah, the sooner we get it done, the better. Yeah, 41,950, so 42.
The repairs on it are gonna be,
underneath.
underneath repairs.
Yep.
That's it, yeah.
Maybe better, I swear to just do that and let it settle for a year. And then, I mean, that could impact it, that's, and nothing like driving.
We did that
Make
before.
sure it's gonna hold.
Well, once they identify, see, there's all kinds of springs that we got
Correct.
there. and a lot of piping, plus you got that creek that comes down through there.
Yep.
Isn't that what they did at the courthouse when we repainted it? We patched it one year,
Yeah, that
and
one
then
corner.
let it sit till the next budget year, and then paved it just to make sure.
Yeah,
But there's no building.
that was where that old well,
Yeah, that's where the well kept sinking in.
well,
That might be the best way.
which I don't know how many years, I guess ever since it was stopped being used and it put gravel in it. And it kept settling and settling, but, yeah, I think I'd use the bulk of that on the library.
There's a whole box in it.
And I agree with
Take
you,
as many as you want.
we fix it and let it sit and see what it does, because I'm not so sure a pipe or something hadn't moved in the ground or something.
They may dig it out to fix it and buy some.
Because that one piping place looks like it's directly, it looks like it's directly in line the way that creek, if they run it straight through there. It looks like it's directly over that creek.
It may have done like you did with the town, put all that back pipe in there.
Well,
It
it's hard
just
to
shatters
tell.
and breaks up.
You'd have to go back to the specs on it, but I know that there was a lot of work put in there to do it on that.
That's what I'm saying, they may have done it, that may be what's causing the problem.
Could be
There's
Yeah,
nothing
fix it,
in the
do it
budget now
quick.
for the
a
library.
$1,000,
$1,000.
Is that the most pressing?
probably,
Other than the roof on the courthouse.
right.
But as far as the liability issue, that's
That's a biggie.
not.
And then we've got everybody coming in on that firehouse primary.
I don't know, the courthouse may be a liability if the judge decides he wants to do
We're working on that.
Yeah. No?
No,
We even talked about it recently with the courthouse maintenance money that we had
Oh,
set
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Right.
I don't know, I just figure when you start having the court of records, documents getting wet, that's a
Oh,
problem.
you don't want that.
especially down in the basement down there that's 17 old.
But we have a courthouse,
$90,000 money. I think it's what.
I was thinking 70, but it might be, it was 90, it was 90, yeah.
It was below 100.
It was right below 100.
Yeah.
I thought Mark was going to check on, was that one? My daycare. I thought he was checking on the membrane systems, what we talked
Yeah.
about,
Similar to what we did over here.
Yeah,
with a little
With
bit.
the elevator,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
guess we just wait for you.
Sounds good.
Sounds like you were leaning toward using the rest of it for the library.
Well, I
The
guess,
rest of that for delinquent fines that's not used for the one-time cost is put there for the library.
personally, I would see what the roof's gonna come back and then it would either need to go to one of those two projects.
So essentially capital repairs.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
And then potentially we could spend a little time looking at which one makes the most sense.
Well, for right now, just for a placeholder, maybe I'll split it between the two.
There you go.
Probably an updated estimate on the parking lot anyway.
I mean, yeah, I think you're right, though. I think we just try to repair the parking lot, don't pave the whole thing, just try to fix the sinkholes.
Did you get an estimate from, who did the estimate, Mr. Short?
I think for the last one we had, if I remember right, it was just the S&S paving, just the paving.
Oh, S&S did it.
We didn't.
So maybe Mr. Short or Mr. Hilton or
Somebody to dig it up.
There you go.
dig it up and,
And there's also that drainage issue in the back
right,
that we probably need to figure out
which is
too.
what Jerry, yeah.
And I just think if we pave it, we're just wasting money until we fix the water problem.
Yeah,
Whatever's causing the sink and then take care of the water in the back.
Should we go ahead and use the courthouse repair and maintenance, and put that also toward the courthouse at this point?
Yeah,
the roof, yeah. Yep.
yeah, I think so.
Probably gonna be enough there for that.
No, we're gonna have to add to both projects probably, or,
I don't know, the repair, just repairing that one, it might not be.
Depends on what you
I don't
find.
know how far they have to go down, right, at time.
The paving's gonna be the expensive part.
That's the expensive part.
If old stuff away,
If it is the pipe crumbling or whatever, then it might be a good idea to just dig the whole thing up, put a new pipe all the way across rather than just patching that one little
Right.
section.
Yeah, don't band-aid it.
Just
Yeah,
the
catch
library-
all the water.
Pipe go out to the library is good behind it.
No, it's behind it. You
You
got
always
the,
right beside the.
the best I can recall, the library is actually, the building itself's on solid ground.
Right.
Good.
And then when they dug all that off, they had to fill that hall in where all those frames were. And there's a pipe, if you go down there and look, there's a pipe in that creek and it looks like it goes all the way down to the, you know,
The worst hole is around the side of the library, isn't it? It's not the back part.
well, that's what I'm thinking, see, water, I learned from the PSA, just because you got a sinkhole right here, doesn't mean that's where the leak is. So if that pipe's come loose or moved or whatever, that water's worked around.
It's sort of like a leak on a flat roof. The leak may be here, but it may come up here.
And then all these,
Just have least resistance. But I was thinking on that back corner, if it keeps sinking, you know, if you go around the very back, there's a big sink place back there.
Yeah, the whole back is, I mean, I agree with you, it's at the corners, but the whole back has issues, and it's all because of the water.
and I don't know.
Fry fish,
Sure, to put the curb and guttering back there, they're gonna have to do something like that, or some kind of French pipe ground with a grate on it that can be cleaned out or something.
Gotta get water out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's the ice and stuff.
Yeah, just think about it.
Oh, yeah.
I have one more question on regarding the court delinquent funds. Did you want us to put in the budget the 5,000 ongoing, as has been identified as possible recurring available money?
Yeah, on the revenue side, I think so.
How you gonna label that?
What we're gonna do is actually in the revenue section, we're gonna show 5,000, budgeted, which means that we're making it available to be
Gotcha.
spent to meet our budget for this year.
That's more than we had.
The beat goes on.
So actually this year, we're gonna put in 105,000, 5 will be the recurring, and the other part will be what's already in there, but we're using that to make our budget this year work.
Just want to remember, like Lauren said, to use that 5,000 in one-time cost type thing.
Well, the 5,000 is recurring, now, that's a lot of what's built up here.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Well, we assume it will be, I mean, that's
Well.
like anything else. Real estate taxes or anything can change. Assume it, but the Commonwealth attorney will continue to prosecute people.
Sure, you ready to move to the next topic? Okay. The next thing that Cindy and I wanted to chat with you about related to the budget is the new relief funding and a conversation that we've had with Davenport related to that. So, you know, as you all are aware, right now, we're kind of estimated to be getting about 3.02 and change $1 million out of that relief fund. And as we discussed before, there are some limitations, but it is clearly broader than, uses are broader than the original CARES Act fund. However, there is also the same level of ambiguity as there was with the previous funds up front. As you know, that money is supposed to come to us in essentially 2 tranches. One was supposed to come 60 days from when the bill was signed. And then the following amount is to come 12 months and has to be expended in 2024. So that's the things we know for sure about that money. There's language in there that says you can spend it on economic development, that you can spend it on infrastructure, broadband, water, sewer. You can use it for making up for some other costs. You can spend it for additional costs related to some of your employees, all those kind of things. But again, there's not a lot of clarity on it. NACO and of course a lot of other folks have been pushing for some clarity. I sent you all, of course, something asking what your thoughts were and shared those questions. And the letter we got, a copy of the letter we got that went from NACO to the White House and the Treasury reflected everything that you all had asked about, as I'm sure other folks asked about as well. Given that as the background, you know, it is a sizable fund, but it's also something that we want to be, and of course I know you would want to be very careful that we spend it appropriately. We certainly don't want to have any audit problems or feel like we have concerns some of it might get drawn back. And so Davenport engaged Cindy and I in a conversation about essentially suggesting, and originally they used the wrong term, so that caused us a little heartburn, but they've changed that now. But essentially we would take that first tranche and have you all set it aside temporarily until we get some clear guidance. And then at the point you have clear guidance, which should be, they're hopeful, won't be very long, but we'll probably push past your budget, this year's budget timeline. So they were suggesting that we let that, say, basically $1.5 million kind of sit to the side and wait and see what some of the requirements are, and then come back with what you wanted to do with it, because there could be some pretty interesting options for you all. You could do some of the same things you did before, but there's also some other possibilities depending what the regulations say. And so that was kind of where they were suggesting we go.
Did they come to us before? So why are they coming to us now?
Because this time there is more, it is broader than it was before. Before it had to be related to COVID specifically, and that really limited what you could use it for as far as capital purchases and other things. This time they feel like it's broad enough, or is likely to be broad enough, that we might be able to undertake some of our capital things that we have been delaying on.
So essentially they know we're working on, they know where we're headed, they know they call when it's broader, and they're doing us the service we're paying them to do and giving us.
Yeah, I see that.
They didn't want us to, you know, maybe we want to do a rises or a shop Floyd or hazard pay again. But then again, maybe there are some long-term projects that we have dealt with, that this will be a good source of money to finally deal with.
And also, some of these proposed projects that they're working on right now may come into play.
Oh, absolutely, our radios.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it just seems funny that.
It's the uses of the money,
Yeah.
that it changed the scope of what they're recommending.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've read, there's possibly another package coming after this.
They're working on
They're working on it.
The infrastructure projects package.
I just can't believe.
I would. There's a lot of needs for infrastructure across this country.
There's a lot of needs for everything.
Yeah.
At some point, we still
What did they list?
I know.
Bridges, roads. and
Seriously.
Specifically was mentioned in it.
Sewer, water, all of that stuff.
I would just like, you know, I appreciate the things in the last round that we were able to get, like ambulance. Some items that are gonna last a little longer than just, one. I mean, I would love to see us actually we got that much money coming to actually end up with something for it. Something that, long after I'm gone from the seat, something can use it.
I was talking with a member of ACO Monday about it. They're hoping that by the time the first checks arrive, Treasury will have given the guidelines. But I was told not to hold my breath.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a rush to do anything. If we have to have it spent by 24, I mean, that's, there's no reason for us to rush into this.
Yeah.
Or be pressured by requests because people know it's coming.
Yeah,
We
I
need
want
to,
people asking.
Yeah.
need to slow crawl on this and make good decisions.
I don't think there's any-
Absolutely.
Because even capital, if it goes to capital, I mean, that benefits the citizenry right there.
Right.
Well,
Or portions of it. I say, I'm not advocating all of it, go. We could be creative.
You're right, I think it needs to be well thought out. It's not often this happens, so.
nope.
I mean, we're probably, I'm sorry, we're probably gonna be flooded with requests, I'm sure. We'll just, we'll have to cinch up and
Yeah.
low trigger.
Just because you got a pot of money doesn't mean yes, you got it all.
Yeah, if we've got to 2024, it's,
And more so, I think that, and we probably all agree, the reason for that is there's the situation in the budget now, what we see in the future, and this could be some impact if we just be conservative with, spending and look forward and maybe make some big impacts for the, as Mr. B says, whoever sat here, and as you said, down here.
That kind of leads to the next thing Dr. Millsaps and I wanted to talk about are things that we know are coming up in the future just to be thinking about and how it impacts the fiscal year 22 budget, but also future budgets. And I don't know which order you would like to talk about them. One is the Phase 2 road in the Commerce Center.
yeah.
When it was first done in the estimator, it was 4 years ago, and they said the county portion of the funding would need to be about $100,000. They did the estimator again, and it's now over $1 million that we would need.
Wow.
And while we will only have 2 months of Phase 2 road expected to be spent in fiscal year 22, we're going to have a lot more coming in fiscal year 23. So one of the things we have just talked about among ourselves is finding out a couple of things, whether the federal engineering, the radio project, could possibly be used out of this economic recovery money and carve out a spot in the $8 million for that road money. So that's something Davenport's supposed to be looking into, is whether road construction is eligible for debt service.
Right. Is there a specific time we need to get this done by once we start on Phase 1? Do we have a time deadline?
Ideal Adina question. There's an ending to the grant money, so I would say yes.
That's the hard deadline.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, is it 2024?
I want to say it's 2024.
Okay, all right, yeah, lots going up in 2024.
And that $1 million, remember, VDOT built that cushion, so there's
Right,
a lot of
might not be as
unknowns.
much.
Dr.
We don't-
Millsaps feels like that might be able to be negotiated down some.
Well, we'll give it a shot. So of that $1 million increase, about 600,000 of that is pretty close to a 30% increase in the cost.
Right,
That seems pretty on par with, what you all have mentioned you're seeing, but also I checked back to where I was, where they build a lot of big roads, and everything is pretty much 30% more. So that made sense, but to Tabitha's point, there's also a significant increase in the contingency and a significant increase in kind of inspection costs, both for around $200,000. It seemed unusual to add both of those, and part of the argument they've given Ladina and Tabitha, I guess, about this as well, since we've not administered one of these before, there's a lot of risk. I kind of understand that, but that's a whole lot of risk.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
That's what it is. They want to play with other people's money.
yeah. So anyway, I don't know if we'll make any progress there, but that is something that we'll at least give a shot to trying to convince them to move it down. It
Since
may
they
or may
haven't
not.
dealt with it, we're laying the groundwork for the rest of the state then, aren't we?
One thing Davenport said that they would do is change the RFP from being project specific to timeline specific, so that instead of saying radio project, it'll say 15-year project or 15-year lifespan projects. So they could put the road in and take that out if they could, and put in 5-year time limits for ambulance and things. So,
And they continue to talk about trying to structure it in a way that maybe some of the smaller financial institutions could participate and not have to go for the whole amount, which might be too
That would be nice.
for them.
Do you know in their proposal when the initial drawdown of those funds will happen when our first payment?
it will be in fiscal year 22, and I just grabbed an estimate. I think I've got 325,000 estimated for fiscal year 22 debt. But that's not based on anything other than me just thinking we need to put something in there. And
That would be if we drew it down July 1st. We took the loan July 1st and had to make a full payment that year, right?
I mean, I just picked an amount.
No, I understand. I'm not questioning that. I'm just,
But that's saying if
one
you
thing
do.
that I was thinking about this in the last week was, if that loan didn't happen July
That loan-
1st, then that changes some of the,
That loan needs to happen because we've already got the ambulance.
I understand, but I don't know, do we have to draw the whole thing down first?
We need to draw down the ambulance.
No, I understand
Right.
that.
We need to draw down that part of it.
Yeah, so you don't have to draw the whole
Yeah,
thing.
but I think what you're getting
We're not
at,
putting towers up July 1st.
Correct.
So I'm just wondering if that,
our payment will be based on what we draw down.
This isn't a line of credit, this is a debt.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter when we draw it down, it's when we incur the debt. Yes.
so that goes back
Gotcha.
to the next question then was gonna be, do we want to do it all in one lump sum?
Or divide them up.
I mean, if the radio system would be built for a year, do we want to pay interest on something that we haven't built?
I mean, why
Or
do
do it
we,
in 2 stages? I don't know, it's just a thought, but.
Well, I think it's all lumped together to try and get the best interest rate. But that's going to impact the cash flow
so,
drastically.
so if we want to get everything for the best interest rates, and interest rates are so good anyway, it'd be interesting for them.
They're doing it 2 ways.
Okay.
They're releasing it in total, and then they are also releasing it, as Dr. Millsap said, 15 years and above, and 5 years and below,
Right.
so that they can let smaller banks go for the smaller amounts and bigger banks. So that we could, if the rates come back in a certain way, we could say, okay, we're gonna go with the 5 and below, take care of that.
Yeah.
We won't go with the other.
Yeah,
I didn't know if there would be a flexible, on the radio system, I don't think that we would be building in town real soon.
Right.
So I just wonder how flexible they could make the dates for that initial
Yeah.
If we
line.
could put that into 22, I mean 23.
Or even half of 22, I mean, you could cut, that might be $100,000 you could cut out of your.
I think,
Sure.
I don't think that 325 is enough, but we'll see.
Right, I mean, on a $4 million line, if you started at January 1st instead of July 1st, that would be
Half a year.
half a year, that'd be it might be tens of thousands of dollars as far as cash flow goes
Yeah.
For a year.
for a year.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I think if I might share the counter to that, and we would just have to, kind of ask them for some advice and use our Bill's best judgment is, I think which, as I remember, they were talking about their concern about interest rates going up pretty substantially and very quickly, and so this was trying to move it so we would get it in while things are low as opposed to, those of us who remember the Carter years, remember that was like,
Well, the economic recovery might
Oh, there's gonna be some inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's high possibility,
It's a possibility.
especially if the next round comes through.
Oh,
You can't pump so much money into the economy without it kind of.
We're on projects that have been 15, 20, 25 years overdue. It's a whole different, I mean, this is never, we're in uncharted territory, I really believe. I don't think,
Yeah, we've never just spent money for the reason to spend money.
well, but spending money on things that have been 25 years, I mean, there are some bridges in this country that you take your chance every day riding over.
We've had them here in the
There's
county.
that.
Bridges in the country that are not certified. I mean, VDOT wouldn't let you do, they would close the road if it wasn't
Right.
certified.
I'm not sure how much more debt my kids can handle.
Well, that's
And
why,
that's where this,
that's where it's at.
yes, exactly right.
That's why inflation has to happen.
I guess that's going to help our budget here, so I'll try to keep myself off these soapbox.
It's not just that, it's minimum wage, it's everything.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's an impact coming too.
That was the other one we wanted to.
Yeah, right.
Well, just slide right in.
What a good segue.
Thank you, Mr.
Or borrow that.
I think it's gonna be paying out instead of borrowing.
Yeah.
And again, that's not anything for this year's budget, it only affects one department, only about 3 people. But that is something to be aware of for fiscal year 23 and future years.
But there's, I don't feel comfortable if there's people being paid minimum wage, and the next group are paid $2 over minimum wage, and then you just you tell people, sorry, but now you're making the same as an entry level job. That's just not very fair.
I don't know how we're gonna get out. Just doing another whole survey again.
Well, you're right, we're gonna
Yeah.
have to for the county employees and all we just went through, setting up a schedule.
Everything has to.
It's all gonna have to be redone.
Because then you start, if you do it I mean, I could probably be done, but on an individual basis.
Yeah.
On those 3.
Mhm.
But then those 3 affect,
Yep.
like you're saying, how many others?
Out there.
That are,
And then you move those up, well, I mean, it's
what
just.
about the, yeah.
Those first 3 I'm not too concerned about, it moves it up very little, and it's in one department, and it's in one department where it's not.
Eventually.
Eventually it will become a problem. This first year it's not, but
Right.
eventually, yes.
It's gonna impact
Some
our.
places to the point that we're just gonna have to give steps until we get, if it takes 2 steps to get the bottom people to where they need to be, then just give everybody 2 steps to get them.
Well, that's what
So
the
then you
basic
can start having everybody.
That way everybody gets the same amount, but I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
Basically, we're gonna have to redesign the whole schedule at some point.
When does it take effect?
The first one takes effect,
This fiscal year.
January
Yeah.
1, 2022.
Yeah, but then the next one is about a year later, I think.
Yeah.
That's the one that will start to really impact the bottom, as you move forward, and that also kind of, your question kind of leads us to another issue that we were gonna talk about, I think, on this question.
Oh, yes.
So we have a little bit of an issue, kind of related, it's not related to minimum wage, but it's that effect that you're talking about. And Cindy, I don't know, you can probably explain that.
I was
Yeah,
trying
you
to.
might as well take your jacket.
This is a little bit, getting hot. This is a little complicated, but it has got to a previous conversation. Remember when you asked me to look at the 5% increase and the effect on our top board funded positions? One of the things you asked me to determine was how much percent the locality pays over the top board amount already. And for a bunch of positions, it came up to 10.3% more.
Wow.
And I didn't know at the time why that happened, but I can now explain it. For a few people, it was almost nothing more. And then for a few people, it was way more. And now we know kind of what caused all this. Back several years ago, about 8 years ago, I guess, it used to be that the localities paid all of the retirement system.
Right.
And then about 8 years ago, I think it was, the state required that the employees pay 5% and the localities just pay the difference. At the time that happened, both the school board and the county elected to make the employee whole so that they weren't actually losing money by this change. So it was the 5% plus the FICA plus the rate on the 5% plus the percent based on group cost. It was this cumulative effect, and it came to 10.3%.
Huh.
So the newer employees are getting paid.
Well, what has happened since then is that 3 of our constitutional officers were here and knew about that. And so when they have an employee leave, they hire the new employee in at the exact same salary as the employee who left, which essentially gives them that 10.3. However, other of our constitutional officers were not here at that time and were not aware of that. So when they've been hiring new people in, it is at the comp board funded amount. That's why we have the
This is where
discrepancy.
they shouldn't have been started at, is that correct?
Well,
Or not?
it's
It's a
Well, I
policy.
just, yeah, I
It's a
mean,
policy decision. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not faulting anybody for the choices
Gotcha.
they made. Some made it based on knowing that history, and some didn't know that history and did the comp board. And so
Got it.
that's why we are where we are.
So in theory, we probably should raise the ones that.
the
Well,
3.
Shut up.
and here's how this all came about. One of our positions in the clerk of court's office is one where the comp board has only paid 50% of their salary. This year, the comp board, with this budget that's coming through, it's looking like the comp board will pay 100% of the salary, which is great. We still got it in our budget at 50. However, they also reclassified the position at the same time and is giving them a substantial increase on top of that 5%. You know, not only are they funding the 100%, but they're giving them a lot more money, which apparently includes that 5%. The question from the clerk of court's office is, if I do this and add the 10.3 on top of it, this puts almost a brand new employee within a few $100s of people who've been in this position for 50 years and for over 20 years. So we have a couple of different ways we could handle it. Her thought was to take any savings on not having to have paid that half the salary and distribute it among the other employees. My thought is we make a rule that comp board funded positions, anybody in there be grandfathered at what their salary is, and anybody new get the comp board amount, nothing more.
Yeah.
In other words, drop the 10% on all
Drop the
the
10% and eventually it works itself out.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. That's sort of what I was I mean, when you enter into a job, you have an entry-level salary that you enter in at. That's how it works in the workaday world.
I think one of the other, again, this is entirely a policy choice where you guys want to go. There's not really a completely wrong or right, legally wrong or right answer.
Right.
But the other thing is, as someone who has moved jobs recently, I would say, you know, that extra 5% in the associated, right, actually didn't go away. That's still part of their compensation. They just are told how they have to spend it. So there are two different ways to look at that. I mean, that 5% goes into their retirement. So it's still part of their compensation package. But it does have an impact on their take home. So it's where you want to focus, and so I think there's, you know, however you'd like to address it.
I think we need to treat all our constitutional officer employees as a group the same way, except we do have longevity and rank structure in the
Absolutely.
sheriff's office and not the others. But at the same time, having some get,
department head choice.
Well, that was this board's choice. We funded those.
Would you mind answering my mistake?
Seats getting higher.
Thank you. Thank goodness for the rule of 3 or more.
I think it's obvious. We stopped paying the extra on new hires.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from the existing.
I mean, I think it was the right choice at the time because you didn't want to just take away money from people. You want to help people coming in.
Remember that discussion, and we beat that horse for 6 months before we finally,
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember it on the other side.
Yeah. You're old,
Yeah.
5% pay cut for somebody who's been here, you want to treat people fairly, but a new hire knows the structure when they come in, so that's their choice when they come in.
And it's kind of, about that same time, if I remember right, it's, to go to your point, about the same time as when they split the VRS plans.
Yes.
So now, the new folks, they're not going to get the same plan.
Yeah,
It's just the cost of them.
that's just, yeah.
But I'm sure we're going to see that multiply as the general assembly keeps messing with VRS. It's going to change. And did something change this year to increase our responsibility as the board? I thought
They were talking about it.
okay, I knew there was something there, and I didn't.
I don't know if it was.
I'm not aware of it.
They're all, they won't ever leave alone. So
They're always playing.
that's a rainy day.
I wish that they would learn that when there's an action, there's a reaction, and it just keeps going, it's a ripple.
Yeah, not law of physics.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem.
They're playing to their constituents and getting their votes and stuff. Yeah, they don't worry about it.
Let the locality for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you feel like we have the answer? I feel like we've got the answer that we're going to direct the constitutional officers, hire people in at the comp board, fund them out, effective July 1. Because that's all we're funding.
Right. I mean, come into a job, I mean, that's just, yeah. Yeah, I just can't see people who have worked in a position for so long, all of a sudden. I mean, that's what was happening with teacher salaries years ago in high school. You'd have 30-year teachers, and we lost a bunch of 30-year teachers because of it.
Yeah, sure.
We really did. We lost a lot of talent.
I know when I started working at the sheriff's department, we had an entry level, which was way down there, at 7,000. And then when you finished the academy, you got a raise to a certain amount, and then that year we finally got a raise, step raise. But that put me up with some of the people that had been there for 10 years. And the blowback hit me, and I told him, I said, look, they gave it to me, I'm not gonna argue about it, you know. But, you know, but I can see where it would cause a big problem.
There'd be friction.
Yeah.
Especially in these cases, some of these folks have been here very long.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The other long-term change that's coming is emergency medical dispatch.
Right.
And when I say long-term, I'm thinking as early as fiscal year 23. Sheriff Craig worked up how much that would be if he were having to hire 4 new people plus provide
4 new people?
you can take 4 new people
4 new people, okay.
plus provide the training and everything that would have to go, the software, and then also the pay increases because now they're a more valuable employee.
Right.
I don't have that right, well, I might. I don't know if I have that right in front of me or not, but that's again a long-term thing to think about.
That starts in 2023? 2024.
Some of the CPR stuff starts earlier, but is not as costly.
Right.
But then the next layer,
I thought it was 2024.
here it is. I think he said he could push out
I was
this year.
thinking it's going to coincide with the new radio system, kind of match up fairly close to you.
Actually, I only have the one page. You want me to make copies for all of you?
Yeah, that'd be great. Such excitement.
Heck for Kathy's up.
He's gonna use recycled paper so it cuts down costs. You gotta save where you can.
I know a department head that used to take, when they had their paper come off the machine, she would make them keep it, and she would flip it
Flip it
over.
over and use it.
Yes. Yeah. I do that on some of my stuff at home when I know it's not going out anywhere.
Yeah.
Just run it back through.
Some of her employees.
Sounds like my mother, she'll send me stuff, and I'm like, you wrote me a note, but on the backside of this is some bill, you know, so I'm like, are you that poor? I need to send you $20. She's so tight.
Getting notepads for Mother's Day,
Yeah.
right?
I get it honest.
Yeah, there you go.
They believe in Ben Franklin saying, a penny saved a penny earned.
Right. Well, very few people alive anymore live through the Depression, so it's a whole nother.
Yeah.
And they did. They used the back envelopes.
I forget what my wife was talking about the other day. Can you imagine living like that, doing such and such? I said, well, I grew up that way, you know.
Yeah, right.
For 15 years.
And you know,
Some backyard, having
I caught part of Dad and Mom's, because, you know, they came up through the Depression.
Right?
And so I remember Dad having us sitting out there straightening nails, you know,
Yeah.
where he used them. So I got to doing that, you know, I'd get Richard out there and
Absolutely.
he said, Dad, nails ain't that high.
They were. You didn't have a whole lot. Yeah, that's right. Dad, they're not that expensive. Hey. So current, so 2023, so the 4,000 is with all of the training, correct? On the front page?
I'm thinking the same, this is what we're paying currently, this is what we will be
Back
paying
page is
them
really-
after. Yeah, the back page is the one that really,
that's what you need to work.
yeah.
Holy cow.
Cindy, I think he's with what's in the back, and what, I think it needs to be stamped non-public.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
And I think that law is you can do it on 10,000 or less, but 10,000, or used to be, 10,000 and above, you're supposed to do it by position. Specific name.
Everybody gets to do it.
Really, the only thing we do is the back page,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that's, I mean, I didn't need to see that. I'm gonna have to see it
Just
sometime.
their fault.
I think, well, I don't know, I'm going to.
He's more legal.
I'm just-
It's
More legal.
Twice,
Just leave some
running back.
stamp for everybody.
He just likes to do the stamper.
Sorry.
That's right, put a new
The
line.
one I got at the house, I have to hit hard, so I apologize.
That's just your
Well, I looked at some of the numbers that I am.
Mercy.
Every time we flip the page, you see another number.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still working.
Oh, yes, yes.
You stamp.
make sure y'all's copies get stamped too.
Yeah.
I missed one, but that's the last page, it's all right.
Last page.
I got one kid. That's the whole list.
Yeah, but
On the 31st. Okay, and that's the last one.
Right?
yeah, basically just for that.
That's the last one.
But this is just,
This is projected.
this doesn't include the additional cost that you mentioned, the software.
Correct.
So that's.
It's sort of a capital expense, the software that gets put in.
This is just salary.
Yeah, I think that would
Personnel.
probably be something that we'd have to ask Kevin for, because he would do the E911.
Right.
You'll need to make sure that whatever transpires in that coincides with what they have to have for this, definitely.
So there's two. So 9 dispatchers on staff,
Yes.
and 4 out of the 9 would have this, or everybody would have this?
I would,
Is that what it is? Everybody has to have it.
I believe,
I'm not sure.
I'm not positive. I think we would want them all.
We would want to all have them, yeah.
Yeah, so that they can rotate and cover and do
Sure.
everything, I would think all, or be offered all in.
Right. And so there's 9 people now, adding 4 new positions. Does that mean he wants to increase the staff to 13?
Yes,
And then on top of that, have the training that everybody
It's not that
needs.
he wants to, it's because
Because he has to,
Yeah,
right,
that's what
right,
he was
right.
saying.
He wants to add the positions and then train them after they're added,
Right,
right?
I don't know what order it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But it's gonna be a requirement, it's not a
Yeah.
want to.
right,
We're paying it, whether we.
right, whether we want to or
It's coming.
The way he explained it, you know,
Yeah, he was on
what the duties that they were incurred for the next little while. You know, he ain't got no choice but,
I think that's pretty much what we had for an agenda.
That's all I can say. Good time to stop.
I'm not gonna ask y'all anymore.
And,
that's the thing. Day and a half.
I'm gonna go back to Stiles' golden rule.
Our 10 cents is at 12.
So I think your next meeting for budget purposes, you scheduled for the 31st, but you don't have anything after that scheduled.
Correct.
You know, that was when we thought we was gonna be able to do it all this month. And, we decided just to do that meeting and then see where we stood and then reschedule the others.
And again, I'll remind you, you have your school stuff April 1.
So, I agree, you got shot out of the water.
Is there a need to meet the 31st? I mean, y'all will go through and give us updated versions based on everything's been done so
Right.
far.
I mean, if we're accepting, in my mind, if we're accepting these, and we went through this, you know, and we're accepting what the department heads have given us and the county administrator recommendations, I think we're just left for decisions to be made.
I just wanna see what the school brought back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to see what Davenport, they can find out if we
Right.
can
Yeah, sure.
use the road construction in the, there, and I don't remember when we're getting results from the request for proposals, it's probably later.
They may not have the details till on up in April anyway. Tobacco's,
If we were to get the schools on the first, could we meet pretty soon after that?
I think that would be wise.
So are you
First is
thinking,
on Thursday.
you're thinking we get rid of the March 31st one at
I
this
just
point?
wondered if that, it always makes sense to meet after the school gets.
that's what I was thinking. That's
I'll tell
why-
you, on the minimum wage, back to the minimum wage thing, the school situation is scary. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of it, like custodians, bus drivers, teachers' aides, I don't know how that's all gonna affect it, but over the next few years, that could be astronomical.
We can meet that either.
About the seventh, April 7th, that Wednesday.
That's when I was telling Jerry we got a joint subcommittee meeting at 5, so we could,
Come in early.
or we could come in after that.
I would have a very difficult time getting all this to you. I have to do a CFR reporting on the CARES money on the 5th.
Yeah, the first full week of April sometime, would that be?
I think you're advocating for a little bit later. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm just saying, if I'm not getting the school's information till the 1st,
Yeah, it's not like we shouldn't meet on first or second.
but I'm saying the 5th, I've got to get that
Right.
out. And
What about the seventh?
again, we've got the joint subcommittee. I mean, it's just,
When's the joint stuff?
Holiday.
Wednesday.
Is it 5?
What
On
is it?
seven.
But she's
So,
saying she's
well,
gonna be back.
the 3rd is
Yeah.
Easter, so I'm assuming, is there a holiday session?
Yeah.
What about Wednesday the 14th then? That gives you
Give us
extra
1
time.
week to get it done.
Well, I've got a board of supervisors meeting on the 13th. If we were to come in,
I can't work later that day.
Can't
It's
work.
depending on how long it is.
So we can keep the agenda light. I'm gonna have to be off the 13th for the meeting, so I can't take any other days this week.
Take 14.
Yeah,
So, but
I have to
if
be somewhere by 3:30.
we could, have a longer agenda that day and then just dive straight into this stuff.
And then maybe need the 14th if we need it.
Well, I mean,
Oh, you
do
can't,
night meetings
right.
if you had
Gotcha,
to. If
okay.
it was a major
Yeah.
problem, but-
Well, let's go for the Wednesday the 7th.
You okay with that?
I will make it work.
Well, what about a night meeting, like on the 8th or 9th? Would that be easier?
That's fine with me, but I thought those days were kind of difficult for other people.
Not the nights.
Well, I mean, I'm just, my fear is if we get to the 13th, and we're supposed to have the tax rate set on the 21st instead of the 22nd.
I have on my thing the 27th.
I thought it was the 27th, but I prefer earlier rather.
Agreed.
Even if it's the 27th, that's only 2 weeks. to
Yeah.
Get the numbers knocked out.
And
It just
usually,
scares me if the
Yeah.
school came in with something we weren't prepared for. and then
Right.
you know, in the school, usually always like to have some indication by the 15th or somewhere in that area so they can, because that's when they start redoing their contracts with the teacher.
did you get any kind of read? I mean, I know what you said yesterday. Was there any kind of,
Well, they did mention that, of course, they're also, the schools are also getting some separate money out of the relief package.
right,
So they did not give me the sense, at least, that it was gonna be a huge change. And I think that's pretty much
That's
what
what he said here.
he
that's
said
what he
here.
said here, yeah.
Is that so a lot of the changes are funded. So he did talk to me about one position that they're gonna be able to fund. It's one case he kind of flagged for me where they're basically using short-term money for potentially longer-term commitment, but there's 2 or 3 years so they're using the relief money to fund that one position in the administrative offices. And then in future years, if that requirement is still there, but it would be 3 years out. So he did flag that for me. That's- I think it was for a school psychiatrist, a second one or something along that lines. But he was indicating also that he was very happy they had the step schedule, that was really assisting
Sure.
to help absorb a lot of this as well. So he didn't have an alarmist agenda when I met with him. Something might change him.
Well, I can't imagine that would have been a good move. For the first time, really, on a one-to-one.
Yeah, you know, we talked about the pretty art on the walls. I asked him for some art for our office from the high school.
Oh, good.
Would you, I'm making a turn back to the date and make it, try to move, see if I can move my day off and take it off on the 9th. I would just have to be done. I have a specialist appointment on my stuff going on that day, that afternoon. If that would give Cindy some more time.
Right.
So the morning of the night.
Morning of the night.
Out
Morning of the
until,
9th?
I would have to be in Blacksburg at, little after 1, so I have to leave here. No later than 1. So we can do it at 8:30.
No later than noon.
So we could
Yeah,
go
I
there.
got a little bit.
He's got lights on his car.
So 12:30, I need to.
Got one of the helicopter planes.
Well, I'm just thinking if we did that, if it would,
That'd be great.
if we could do that from 8:30 to 12:30, and then
Yeah.
we could reserve the rest of our board meeting on the 13th.
Gotcha.
That's a good,
Yep, that's a great idea.
yeah.
So we cancel the meeting on
Thursday.
Next week we have nothing, and then
So I can move that day without having to recreate one.
that would give you enough time?
Yes.
April 9th, 8:30.
Yep.
Come on, 8:30.
Anybody else?
Yep. 8:30, April 9th.
8:30 to 12:30 at the latest,
Yeah, not to exceed.
not to exceed. Well, you already got your 3-hour rule, so that wouldn't need to be listed. And then.
But we could be done early.
You done, Dylan?
Efficiency.
That's right. And then
And then
also
it's
your
run
board
like
meeting,
6 hours.
your board meeting day.
Yes. And I've got to note to myself, QT agenda light.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because again, you still want it to be done by 12:30. Yeah,
Well,
On, wait.
on the 13th.
if we could be done even earlier than that, I gotta get out by 3:30.
That's correct. I'm confused. What day?
On the 9th, 8:30 to 12:30.
Yes.
On the 13th, did you want an end time on that one?
For the budget meeting.
Well, I have to be gone, and I mean, you know, you could do it without me, but I mean, I have to be gone. I have 2:30, I think it's a, let me see what I wrote.
13th is a board meeting day.
Yeah.
She's one ahead of.
Yeah, I'm going ahead, that's what Cindy was asking about.
I have that day blocked off because I know it's on the meeting.
Yeah, but I've got a commitment that afternoon.
Now, I gotta go home make a new dental appointment because I noticed they put that on the 13th. It'd be hard to get that.
Anyway,
Might enjoy that more.
I was gonna say, they're both gonna be painful.
I dared you up.
that's pretty funny, Lauren.
Yeah.
When the dentist office is
At
more,
least I can take a Tylenol to the dentist.
well, I guess you could take one here.
Yeah, but that don't help stress.
Yeah, no. I'll double check, I mean, if we can keep it light to about noon, maybe a little earlier.
With the budget meeting and all?
No.
She's talking about general
Board of
business.
Supervisor
Well, when's
meeting.
the budget meeting? When do you have to?
I have to leave, I think it's, I have 2:30 here, but I think it's more like 4, I'll have to double check. Let me see, did I put
I don't
that?
see us going past 3 on the budget meeting.
Well, good. If we don't have to, yeah.
Until noon on the first, in the regular meeting, and then.
Yeah, I just have to get to Radford by 3:34, so. I don't drive quite so fast.
Figured out what
And I don't have lights on my car.
I'll tell you how then we're all gonna be mushing. So,
Yeah, right.
With the
I'm
normal,
doing.
with the normal business plus.
Plus 3 o'clock,
Lots
yeah.
more good news, I'm sure.
it'll work on finding something.
And really, we'll see what the 9th brings. I mean, that could tell us a lot.
Do you know when they schedule going back to finalize everything down in Richmond?
No, I haven't seen.
I haven't seen anything on that either.
And I guess we'll have updated, will we have updated summaries, you
Oh,
think?
yes.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean, month and close, you mean March?
Yeah, right.
I don't know, that really always depends on the treasurer's office.
Yeah. Okay,
It'd
It's all good.
be good if we could, because that helps a lot.
it really
I
does.
can give you the summaries that are not the month-end close.
Right. It's always good to just see what's,
It will not be,
It's 3/4.
yeah, it's 3/4 of the way
it
through.
would not be the official ones, but.
Okay, but it gives us an
It will be
idea.
a really good idea.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I guess we'll do our final quarter appropriations at that meeting too.
Yes.
Phew.
I think that completes what we have.
How's that?
got anything else?
I know you're all feeling kind of down at this point, if you're looking out toward the future, but look what you've accomplished so far today. The departments came back with some meaningful cuts, they found ways to increase revenues, we identified new funding stream and got it back in the library parking lot and the courthouse roof as possibilities that weren't even in there before. So there were a lot of good things.
It's just when you look
It's just
ahead.
when you look down the
Yeah,
road
when
and
you
all
look
the
ahead.
future things coming that we have no control over.
Well, and two, there's only some of these things in the future that I could say that we're gonna have to rank in order of what we do and what we don't, and some of it's gonna have to be kicked down the road. I hate it, but
Some of it can't be like this medical stuff.
well, no, I'm saying, there's gonna be stuff we have to do, and that's gonna have to take priority sometimes over what we may want to do.
You know, I think that we've, like you said, we've asked our staff to come back with meaningful cuts. Everybody did. It's just costing more to run Floyd County and, you know, it's always nice when you can say, you know, if we have a tax increase, this is what'll come, but sometimes there are times when you just have to realize that you just can't do what we need to do and keep our county on a sure footing without kind of biting the bullet and
Sort of solidifies what we've always said about having a good group of department heads.
yeah, absolutely.
Because they went above and beyond. I know it's a lot different than it used to be. That's when we were always butting heads. You know.
Well, everybody's working for the good of the county. I think that's
everybody's on the same team now.
And everybody's conscientious where this funding comes from.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I think that's the key.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it is just very sobering.
A lot of our department heads, as those saying goes, came up through the ranks. So they've seen it over the years and they know, you know, they've learned from past mistakes.
Yeah.
Because just about everyone that has worked for a previous administrator in their departments. I guess.
Probably about 3% right now, aren't we?
Easy.
About 3.5, I
I'm
thought.
almost saying 4.
Well, since the treasurer doesn't like half cents, so yeah, we're over.
I mean, that's pretty sobering.
If we throw her a curveball now, she might get upset with us.
Yeah.
I know what my wife tells me, you know, because she was treasurer, working treasurer's office. She said, y'all don't do them half cents.
Well, it does make it hard on
It
them.
does, it does. You know, it's still better than what I was expecting when we first got this mandate.
I'm not done.
Yeah, I know that, but he was,
Yeah.
the Lord said, 3.5. You know, I was afraid it was gonna be a lot higher than that.
Well, I'm just trying to remember too that, I know we're focused on, fiscal year '22, but I'm really thinking about boards down the road. And it's like you were saying, Cindy, it's, that's a really important thing to do. I think that it's, because what we do today and what we do in '22 and '23 could possibly lay the foundation for '27 and '28.
Or further.
Or further.
That's just like Justin said, he's thinking about his
His
boys.
kids, yeah.
I'm thinking about my grandkids.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, what they're gonna be facing over what we do, you know.
They're pretty good stewards.
And they live close to me, hang out. Wait for a motion. See more Diggy's book out. That's right, I better get that in there right quick.
Officially cancel our meeting tomorrow in any capacity, or,
You mean the 31st?
I mean the 31st, excuse me, sorry.
We just need to adjourn.
During this one.
Well, I know that we had, since we had announced and scheduled it,
I think that was just amongst us.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think, there wasn't one that we publicized.
So your motion is to adjourn to the 9th?
9:38.
That's exactly what happened.